You know, where to begin with this? First and foremost, let's start with this. I have a lot of criticism for certain folks. The way I do it sometimes is not palpable to certain people. I get that. However, I always bear in mind time and place. That's very important. Even if I vehemently disagree with you, I'm going to do it in a manner in which it's appropriate, first and foremost. Now, let's look at this. I want to say he's an internet troll slash clown slash bigot slash hater. You all, I'm referring to the individual that the lunatic from Mar-a-Lago invited to dinner, Nick Fuentes. Now, I know he came out and said he didn't know who Nick Fuentes was, but, he's a liar. Because Nick Fuentes is all over Truth Social. And he's pretty prominent in conservative circles, so he knew exactly who he was. Now, let's start here before I morph into the other parts and components of this. Nick Fuentes. Remember I told you this first, because sometimes you hear things and you're like, well, I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing. And that's true. That's fine with me. But remember I told you this first. Let me preface it with this. I don't ever advocate for violence towards anyone. Even though Nazis have always advocated towards violence for me and folks who agree with me. I don't advocate towards violence towards them. I advocate for self-defense against them. Because defending yourself from violence is not necessarily violence. They'll try to act like what happened in Alabama with that situation on the waterfront, where the people jumped to the defense of Dang Dang, the security guard, that they were being violent towards them. But it was 8 men who started punching and kicking, and then one woman came and kicked and spit on Dang Dang. So the violence was started by them, and that's always how this is. They start the violence, and then when you come and defend yourself, they say, oh, you're being violent, you're being violent. No, all you folks, and I'm talking about a certain element. I'm not talking about broadly a group. I'm talking about an element. A certain element, all you know is violence. So we have to defend ourselves. That's why there's a Red Army. That's why there's Antifa. Because there are Nazis who love to genocide. There is a certain element who has a propensity towards genocide on this planet. And we all know who you are. Yes, we do. Yeah. It has nothing to do with economical difficulties. No, that's the mask they use. Now that's the mask they use. They know in difficult times it's easy enough to gain new supporters, because all you have to tell them is this person or this group is responsible for your adversity you're going through at the moment. Yeah, it's called scapegoating. You don't think I know how that works? So this is something that they do. They have a propensity towards genocide, and they love scapegoating certain groups and certain people. Yeah, but they're nothing more than just a bunch of haters who are violent. And we have to defend ourselves from their violence. And best believe that I tell my folks, defend yourself at all costs from them. Because I know how sick and how violent they have been and still are. Yeah. Yeah, we all know. We all know. Now, Nick Fuentes. I'm of two minds about this. My first mind is I hope that he's kind of doing this to try to rope-a-dope other people who are more vehemently anti-Semitic and anti-black, trying to get people who are deep under the rock to come out and expose those folks, shine a light on how sick certain people are in our society. And that could be the case. He could be doing that. But I don't necessarily believe that's what he's doing. I believe he's vehemently anti-Semitic and anti-black. And what I'm going to say next is what goes around comes back around invariably. And I say this based off of something I saw recently. It happened 3 years ago, but I just recently saw it. So I was only made aware of it recently. I didn't know about it, but now I do. Nick Fuentes, he's going to run up on the wrong Jewish or black person. He's going to fuck around and he's going to find out the hard way. Why do I say that? 3 years ago, he went to a Turning Points USA conference, also known as Toilet Paper USA to me. And he was kicked out before he could get in because they knew what he was. And so he saw Ben Shapiro. Now, Ben Shapiro is Jewish. He's someone that I vehemently disagree with, passionately. Yeah, I don't agree with him. I think some of his claims that he makes are bigoted, very bigoted, and mean-spirited and hateful. Sort of kind of like Nick Fuentes. However, just because I disagree with you, Nick Fuentes, Ben Shapiro, or anybody else on the right, I still have to bear in mind time and place. Ben Shapiro was out with his family, his kids, and his wife. Yeah, he had his kids in the stroller. He has some young kids. And Nick Fuentes is across the street barking all types of anti-Semitic tropes, just hateful, mean-spirited, derogatory, and racist anti-Semitic tropes, which he has every right to do in America. It's a free country. You can be a clown and a bozo and bark out whatever you want. It's a free country. He gets onto the street. You know, it's a public street. These people don't even have enough common sense. And he's got a band of, you can tell these folks are insults. Yeah, they are just like, you can look at them. They look like they're 14 years old in the face. And they look dumber than a rock. Yeah, because at least a rock knows to sit still. It knows its place. These folks are stupid as hell. And he's got these folks following him, video recording this, live streaming it. And he's like, Ben, why did you say what you said? He sounded like a whiner, okay? Nick Fuentes, if they show this to you, you sound like a whiner. You know, a whiner, just like, like a little small child when they're really small, like whining all the time. That's how he sounded to me. And he's like, Ben, why did you say this about me? Why did you say this about me? And Ben Shapiro didn't even look his way. He just continued pushing the stroller with his child and just walked right past it. And there's this one young lady She's like trying to tell these other stupid men who are with Nick Fuentes. All of them are really dumb. So they're not going to listen to anybody that's got any type of IQ over room temperature. She's trying to tell him, guys, he's with his kids. This is not appropriate. She's like, guys, he's with his kids. Like, this is not appropriate. And he's like, Nick Fuentes is like, when else am I going to run into him? He ducks and hides. I never see him. And she said, you know, you're not making yourself sound like you're intelligent. You're making yourself sound like a whiner. She said, you need to go off and do something else with your time. She didn't say all of that. I'm paraphrasing, but she really laid into him. But he was just like, I can't, like a whiner. But let me tell you why this is problematic. Never, young people. See, he's young. He's young. You know, they have a phrase, young, dumb, and full of cum. That's when you're really horny and you're a young guy and you do stupid things. He's young and dumb. But I want to tell other young people who might be following him, be careful doing this shit because you're going to get hurt. You know, it's a matter of time. It's only a matter of time before somebody that follows him or him himself get hurt doing this kind of shit to people. Because you can only push somebody so far before they push back. Never, young people, listen to me. This is very important. Do not ever, when somebody is with their children, run up and harass them. You don't do that. That's not the time nor the place. That's not appropriate. Now, if Ben Shapiro was at a conference by himself, debating, oh yeah, get up there and drill him. Go all in. And some of us who are leftists, Marxists, we've done that to him. I have no problem challenging Ben Shapiro. I disagree with pretty much a lot of what he says, not everything, but most of it, like 95% of what he says, I disagree with. But I wouldn't go up to a man when he's got children out just minding his own business, harassing him. You know, Nick Fuentes, all that anti-Semitism, trying to get young men to run up on Jewish people, you know what's going to happen, right? Somebody is going to get scared and defensive and just unload. Yeah, they're going to just be like, I felt threatened. You know, Ben Shapiro, I'm not saying you can punk him, but he's not the type of person that's going to do that. But there are some people who would do that. And that's why I'm telling young people, don't do that. When somebody's out with their family, no matter who it is, let them be. They're out with their family. You know, that's not the time nor the place. You know, when you're young, you're supposed to learn these things from either your parental upbringing or you're supposed to have good advisors and friends tell you what's appropriate to do in life. You can tell that Nick Fuentes didn't have any of that going for him. And the other dudes that were with him, they were stupid. They should have told him the same thing that young woman was saying. This is not appropriate. He's with his kids. You can't do this when somebody is with their kids. When they're by themselves at some kind of university debating something, that's when you can heckle them. That's when you can try to punk them. But when somebody is out with their family enjoying the day, that's not the time nor the place to do that. And let me tell you something. Somebody that's real, like somebody that's a real one, you do that to a real one when they're out with their kids and they're licensed to take care of business towards you. And I wouldn't feel any sympathy for you. I don't care who you are. You just don't do that. There's rules to this. Yeah. If it's one-on-one, if it's me and you, have at it. But if you're out with your kids and I see you out with your kids, I'm going to be like, nah, I'm not doing it. They're out with their kids now. I have to wait to a different time because that's not appropriate. It's just certain things you don't do in front of people's children. Yeah. And see, this is how guttery the Nazis have become. This is how guttery the Republicans and conservatives have become. Ben Shapiro is a conservative, but he happens to be a Jewish person. And because they hate Jewish people just like they hate black people so much that they think they can just do anything. And let me tell you something. If that had been Jon Stewart, yeah, he probably would have punched him. He probably would have squared up and punched him and told him, don't come around me when I'm with my children. And he would have been fair to do that. Yeah, that would have been fair. Because everybody knows that rule. You don't bug a man, you don't bug a woman, you don't bug anybody when they're with their children. Period. So I really wanted to tell young people, do not follow suit and do that. Because you will get hurt out here doing that. And he's really going to get some of his supporters, his followers, or himself harmed. And you heard it here first. So when it happens, you're going to go back and rewind the tape and say, wow, how did you know this was going to happen? Because I know there's certain things you just don't violate. You just don't do certain things. And that being the most important one. You don't harass somebody when they're out with their family. You don't do that. That's a no-no. I don't care if it's a conservative, a liberal, libertarian, Marxist, communist. I don't care who it is. When they're out with their family, they're out with their family. You just don't do it. So you all don't do that. Because he's going to get himself hurt and he's going to get one of you hurt doing that. And you remember I told you this first. Because he's going to roll up on the wrong Jewish person or the wrong black person, and they're not going to show any mercy, nor would they be required to, because that's just a no-no. Yeah, I saw that and I said, what is this fucking clown doing? I'm thinking to myself, he's got to know better than this, but hey, maybe he doesn't. You know, these people are so stupid. Some of them, not all of them, some of them are so stupid that they think they can do whatever pops into their mind. And that young white woman, she wasn't even Jewish. She was a young white girl. She was like, guys, he's out with his kids. She's like, you should know better than to do this. She's trying to tell them, guys, you know better than to tag along and bug somebody when they're out with their small little kids, right? You did learn that, right? And they're just ha-ha, he-he-ing it up. And it gave so much insult vibes. See, they talk about replacement theory. I'm going to have to do a whole video on that. They talk about replacement theory. You all, they're going to replace themselves doing this. Nobody wants to have a child with somebody who does that. That is immature. Completely immature. Completely immature. No mature person does that. Yeah, he tries to claim that he's an adult, that's mature what he did. That's not mature. That's not adultish. Because when you see somebody with their kids, you don't do that. Yeah, adults don't do that. You say juveniles behave that way. No, juveniles don't behave that way. Juvenile delinquents do. That's what it gave off the vibe. Juvenile delinquents. Yeah, it gave the vibe of being a juvenile delinquent to me. Not an adult. Not somebody who wants to be taken serious. Yeah. Have you ever seen George Will, a conservative columnist, come up to any liberal who's out with their children and harass them? Yeah. No, he wouldn't do that. And that's what I mean. There's certain things that everybody knows you just don't do. But when you're talking about those type of folks, and see, that's what the Republican Party has allowed into their party. Yeah, they allowed that. And so now they have to deal with that. That's on them. They allowed that in the door. They should have never allowed that. And that's going to come back to bite them. Remember I told you that first. That's going to come back to bite them. They can try to remove it if they want, but once you open up Pandora's box, it's open. They allow that into their party. And now they're trying to say, well, we're not about that, but why is it over there thinking that you're about it? What would make him think that he could even show up to Turning Points USA if Turning Points USA wasn't out there doing dog whistles about racism and anti-Semitism? And see, this is why nobody goes over there. Because all of us know what it really is. They're like, oh, we won't go that far. We'll kick him out. Well, why does he think he can show up there anyway? Yeah, why would he feel that he would be welcome to that place anyway if you weren't constantly putting out dog whistles that those people are welcome? Yeah, that's what they did. They put out dog whistles that those folks are welcome. And so then when they show up unannounced, they're like, we kicked them out. But, hey, your party is always constantly flirting with that kind of thing. Yeah. I just wanted to tell you all that. He's gonna roll up on the wrong one. Yeah, real soon. It's gonna happen real soon. Yeah. Because I'm telling you, anybody that's out with their kids and somebody tries to ambush them like that, they're licensed to defend their family. Ben Shapiro would have been licensed to do what he needed to do to Nick Fuentes. And I would have cheered on Ben Shapiro for doing it. Yeah. I would cheer on anybody for defending their family. Yeah, you can't do that. He knows better. Or maybe he doesn't, but he's going to learn that that's not appropriate pretty soon. Rest assured. Because he's going to roll up on the wrong one. And I'm telling these other folks that are involved in that, don't do it. I'm trying to warn people, but hey, you can either heed my warning or don't heed my warning. It's up to you. Yeah, that's totally up to them. They'll find out. They'll find out the hard way. One of his supporters, one of Nick Fuentes' supporters, he was out there saying the Holocaust was made up and all of this and wanting to fight Jewish people. And he got into a fight recently with an MMA fighter. Got his ass beat up. Yeah. And that MMA fighter, he said, the next time it won't be so easy. The next time I'm not going to go easy on you. So just shut up. You listen to what I'm telling you. Don't go to work saying slavery benefited enslaved people. Don't go to work talking about the Holocaust was made up. Don't do this. They're really setting a bad example for the youth. Them doing that, they're setting a horrible example. These are all things you just do not do. Period. Yeah, you just don't do it. Don't roll up on anybody's family, trying to ambush them when they're out with their family. You'll be laid down. Period. He rolled up on Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is nice for that. He should really be thanking Ben Shapiro that he didn't punch him square in the face. Because he would have been licensed to do that. You see me out with my kids and you want to yell all this shit, want to get all in my space? Like, dude, are you crazy? Like, you say he knew the one to pick with. Maybe. But you don't necessarily know sometimes the one to pick with. Because sometimes you think you can pick with somebody and that's not the one you can pick with. And a lot of them are going to find that out. This year, next year, the years to come, they're going to find that out. Not everybody is going to let it slide. Yeah. Because I can tell you, if that were Jon Stewart and Jon Stewart were out with his wife and kids and somebody was yelling that shit and got up in his face, I can only tell you what I think Jon Stewart would do. I can't tell you he would definitively do it. I can tell you what I think he would do. He'd lean back and punch the shit out of you. Yeah. And he'd tell you, don't ever do that again. Yeah, period. It's just things you just don't do. Yeah. So this is a note to the youth, because I feel other young people are setting a bad example for young people. And there needs to be somebody that counterbalances that. Tells you that this is not appropriate, not okay. Time and place. Yeah, that should be a lesson you all learn. Learn that lesson now, while you're still young and while you're still here in this realm. Time and place. It's not the time nor the place to bug someone when they're with their children. Period. Don't ever do that. Ever, 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 ever. Because let me tell you why. The person you do that to, they think that basically you're doing that and you might cause harm to their children. It's not even about them. They're like, I have to protect my kids. Yeah, it's not even about them. It's like, I'm protecting my children. So, we're all wired as mammals to protect our offspring. You come into my space, if I'm by myself, that's one thing. But if I'm with my offspring, that's totally different. Then I have to think about their protection. Because I don't know what you might try to do to them. See, Ben Shapiro, the reason why he didn't look at him and pushed his children fast away from him is because he doesn't know what those other guys might try to do to his children. There were multiple people there. For all he knows, they can try to kick the stroller. They can try to do all kind of crazy fuck shit. So he just wanted to get completely out of the situation, which is also appropriate. Because you all, if you're in a bad situation, try to get out of there as quickly as possible. But I'm telling you, if he was just by himself doing that, and he was with his children, he would have been licensed to fight it. Because that's threatening to his family. Now, we're not going to go around doing that. If you Nazis think you can go around doing that, you're going to get hurt. Period. Period. End of story. You're going to get hurt doing that shit. I'm telling you, remember, you heard it here first. I tell you all things that are just common sense, but you know what they used to say, common sense is not so common to everyone. But it should be. This is common sense. You don't bug an individual when they're out with their family. Yeah, you just don't do that. Yeah, you just don't do that. That's a no-no. It's more than a no-no. It's a hell no. It's a hell no. And that's what that young lady was trying to tell him. She was like, guys, he's out with his kids. Don't do that. Don't bug him now. That's not appropriate. But you know, those folks, they're not, the elevator doesn't go all the way up to the top with them. They're not the brightest light bulb in there. Yeah. Well, you know, I'm not gonna. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It would be like condoning violence. It's a slippery slope. The reason I say that it would be condoned is because it's threatening to the person's family. Yeah, it's threatening to the person's family. Like, say for instance, you're out and you see somebody you really don't like, but they're out with their wife and they have their kids in tow. You're not going to come up to the person you don't like with their kids around and say, yada, 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 and start arguing with the person. You shouldn't. Now, if you saw the person you didn't like and they were by themselves, that's different. See, it hits different that way. It's different when somebody is by themselves as opposed to when they're with their family. Because people are going to feel a certain type of way. They're going to be like, you're threatening my children. They don't look at that as you're just threatening them. Yeah, because you're technically not. Because there's other people around. Yeah. So, it's not condoning violence. It's just understanding that it's a different way people look at that. Yeah, that situation will always be looked at as you're threatening their kids. Yeah. And for folks that claim they care about children, they should know better than to do that. They should know better than to do that. I just saw it recently. I didn't even know about that. You know? I didn't know about it. When I saw it, I said, man, this is not, my first thought was, this is not going to end well. And remember I told you this first, it's not going to end well. It is not going to end well. You heard it here first.